Hey everyone, this is Brian Ferguson. I know if you're watching this that you're enjoying the Bumps and Thumps podcast. In order to continue the podcast and get the guests on that everyone wants to hear about, we need support from listeners like you. There are a few ways you can do this. One is going to anchor.fm, which will be on the bottom of your screen here, and click the support button. There you can make a monthly contribution to support the podcast. There's also, we have a Teespring store. We have a link down at the bottom of the screen as well for that. And we have products such as t-shirts like this one I'm wearing, backpacks, glassware, and other great items for you to purchase. Those purchases go directly back into the podcast and get on guests that require financial compensation. Thank you again for your support. Go to those websites and support our podcast, and we will continue to bring the guests that you want to hear about, past and present. And thank you for your support and enjoy the podcast. Thank you for joining another edition of Bumps and Thumps, the talk of wrestling. I'm Brian Ferguson. My guest today has been a true lifelong fan of professional wrestling. He has an avid collection of pro wrestling memorabilia and attends as many pro wrestling events as he can. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Matty Montcalm. Matty, thanks for coming on today, man.
Hey, thanks for thinking of me. I'm glad to be here.
You know, I'll give full disclosure to everybody today. We met at Crusher Fest.
Yeah.
And last October. Just by chance, you sat next to me. We started chit-chatting, and I told you I had this podcast, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'll listen to that." And I was just like, "Really? You do? This is great."
It's funny because I'm a Brunzell. I'm a big Brunzell guy. Like his singles run when he was in Houston a little bit, but more like Mid Atlantic and stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love the high flyers, but just something about it I like because I was a big Bockwinkel guy. So.
Yes.
Bockwinkel spoke extremely highly of him. So, I mean, that probably had a little bit to do with it. But there was no podcast on Brunzell, and he was going to be there. So I searched Jim Brunzell, my podcast, in the app, and Bumps and Thumps came up, and I listened to it the whole way down there. And then just by chance, I just sat next to him. We started talking. That is insane. That's wrestling fate right there.
Yeah, yeah. Brunzy was my second guest. It was the third episode, but he was my second guest. And just he's a great guy. Him and Greg both. They are great guys. I got to hang out with them for a while. They're fantastic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
At Fest, though, I had a few magazines, few programs, 8x, and they were just signing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I honestly didn't know that I had to pay more for. They were literally like Medusa, same way. She was just signing everything. And I was like, oh, so they're just signing. Yeah. So we get in there and they go, you owe this much money. And I'm like, what? And then Brunzell was like, no, we don't. It's fine. We're going to give him a free picture too. I was like, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I stayed at the same hotel as those two. Cause I talked to him before we went out there, and I stayed at the same hotel right across from them, actually. Great guys. Hung out with them the whole weekend. Other than when they were doing stuff at Crusher Fest, I stayed away, let them do their thing. But we went out to dinner together. We hung out at the hotel restaurant and bar with Medusa and Bischoff. And I got pictures. Yeah, I didn't have to pay, which was nice, because they were just like, "Yeah, I'll take a picture with you." I was at the hotel. I was like, "Let me take a picture." No, so we took a picture. It was great.
I wish.
Yeah, you should have went. I mean, if I would have knew you, I was like, come back to the hotel.
Yeah. Well, it got canceled this year.
Yeah, it got canceled. Yeah.
Last year, I just drove there and drove back. So
yeah, I know you did. I was like, man, you're crazy, but
I do that all the time.
Yeah. I mean, mine was a 9-hour trip. I lived in Kansas City then, and I was like, I can't drive there back. So, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. So, all right, that's a little disclosure of how Matty and I met. Now, I don't know a lot about Matty's personal side other than his wrestling collection. And if you're watching, that background is probably just a small sample of what you have. Am I correct?
Yeah. a whole room I just made in my basement. I had
Yeah.
a basement as my house, so I like cut off a room, and I have it jam packed. Like I need to definitely need more space.
We all
Uh,
do.
yeah, I just real estate. I feel like I could probably get rid of like some Mattel figures, but I make custom figures
Yeah.
of guys. Like, well, I don't want to get rid of my customs. Now my
Yeah.
customs are over the shelves, and
Yeah.
yeah, and then just going to when I go to conventions and stuff, I kind of like to get a lot of photos and stuff and put them
Mhm.
together. So I'll get like a frame and put them together, and then put like my. Sometimes they give you the lanyard, with it, just something to commemorate. Because I always have a great time. I met so many great people at these
Yeah.
conventions
I
that
will.
I just
Yeah. I will say this, that most of those, I mean, I have only had an issue with one person ever, anytime I've ever been to like an event where they sign or whatever. Uh, but other than that, you're paying them to,
yeah
sign or whatever, be there, autographs, whatever. But I mean, for the most part, they're down to earth people. They'll talk to
yeah
you for a few minutes, and they'll take a pic with you and sign stuff. And yeah, it's really cool. My WrestleCon was my first really big one. I mean, Crusher
yeah
Fest was like my first deal that I'd done, but WrestleCon was a little overwhelming. I'll be honest. There was a lot of people there, a
I felt
lot.
like I went to that Indianapolis, that Square Circle Expo,
Yeah.
and it was great. I mean, but it was just a lot of people, and
Mm,
I was getting not overwhelmed, but it was just like I mean, people were just like in a super hurry. It kind of felt
yeah.
like, and they were
Yeah.
like not rude about stuff. Sometimes I'm just like, I
Yeah.
gotta. And my nephew was with me, and I'm like trying to get him. They're just like moving ahead of him. I'm like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah, yeah. No, I didn't have it that bad, but there was long lines at WrestleCon for like Bret Hart, Jeff Hardy,
Oh yeah,
and I had my oldest son. He's 28, so that kind of gives away my age. But uh, he he had to go sit down for a while. I was like, I gotta sit down, Dad, and I'm like, okay,
yeah.
go for it, buddy. I'll stay in line. But anyways, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the Cauliflower Alley Club reunion here in September. Meet up with you, and we'll do some
Yeah,
stuff.
hopefully
Looking
we can
forward.
make
Yeah.
it.
All right. So let's talk about you now. All right. So growing up, tell us about where you're from, where you grew up at, kind of your childhood,
I grew
anything
up.
like that.
I grew up here in Lincoln, Illinois, um, small town. Mom raised me. I pretty much uh, how I kind of I've been into wrestling since I can remember. It's always been the one constant.
Mhm.
Uh, but what, as far as I can remember, my mom worked at a grocery store at night. Well, I went with her, so I would be at the grocery store she worked at. It's called Alexander's. The owner would let me have would just let me pretty much go eat whatever I wanted to, and like not whatever, but I mean bag of chips, something. And I'd always get a wrestling magazine off the shelf. So I swear to you, I still have all those wrestling magazines.
Yeah.
Well, he was in the back one time, and I remember he said he had a bunch more wrestling magazines that had just got left there, or I don't know how that would work, but there were a bunch of old Pro Wrestling Illustrateds. I mean, growing up, I was a Hulkamaniac. Who wasn't? At my age, I was
Yeah.
born in '85, but I'll explain why I like the old school so much. So after having these magazines read to me, reading what I could, at 4 or 5 years old,
Yeah.
the one that stands out to me more than any of them was the Harley Race cover with him at the NWA World Title on there,
Yes.
and I got that magazine signed by him actually, and
Ugh.
told him the story. But I had that, and LJN figures and stuff were out a little bit before that, but neighborhood kids and stuff, it's like, oh, they got the King Harley Race. I'm like, yeah, but he was NWA World Heavyweight Champion. You know what I mean? And they're just like,
Yeah.
but he's the King Harley Race. I was like, no, this is way better than being the King. I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So everybody knew him as the King Harley Race around here, but I was just like, no, he's like 8 times world champion. How do you not? I don't think they understood how that belt, the NWA belt just is just like that. The A belt, you know, and the old WWF belt. Those are just like the big three to me. You know what I mean? But
I
just the
don't,
NWA
I don't know if
because
you
of
can, I don't know if you can see it, Matty, but AWA,
yeah, I got one
the
here
inmate
too.
belt.
Yeah, that's one I got.
Yeah.
Hey, then I got the Thez NWA. Or no, I'm sorry. I call it the Dory NWA, the one Kinitsky, Dory held, and Thez had held it too. And then pounds. And then I got the Thez one on the way. So
Where do you find all this stuff? Do you do a lot of research or what?
yeah, well, I had a guy that made them,
Okay.
and then we had a deal worked out where I kind of told my buddies to go to him, and then he just like upped his prices on me. So out of pride, I'm just like not buying them from him right now. I have a big gold. I have the NWA Dory Kiniski, and then I always love the U.S. Mid Atlantic version of the U.S. title.
Mm-hmm.
The AWA, and my favorite territory is the Missouri title. Then the Mid Atlantic weight, and then the NWA 10 pounds of gold.
Okay.
But yeah, like my masks are made by a guy named Mike Woody on Facebook.
Okay.
Why I went to him because I met Bill Eadie, and I asked him, "Hey, you got any masks, ring worn masks for sale?" And he was very straight with me, and I could tell you that, but it might not be ring worn. And I said, "Okay, I don't want that mask." And you know what I mean? But
yeah.
the guy that made his mask at the end was a guy named Mike Woody, so I just Facebooked him, and he happened to be still making masks. So I got a 3-mask superstar mask and a spoiler mask made from him.
Wow.
I mean, making them originally anyway, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Then I got a Mr. Wrestling 2 mask from Mr. Wrestling 2 himself, signed.
Wow. That's
crazy.
How long have you been going to these like events, conventions, that kind of thing?
I would go to was Harley's deal there, and when he was still around WLW, they had their like big yearly thing, and I started going to those, and talking to Harley. He didn't know my name. I can't say he knew who I was.
Yeah.
But I said, "Hey kid, how you been?" You know what I mean? I do miss that. But
yeah.
When I was super young, there was something in Collinsville, Illinois that my mom took me to. And my mom wasn't very wealthy growing up, so she had to like literally save her money to go to this.
Yeah.
And it was a Harley was there, and the matches were garbage. I remember what is the, so I just kept looking back at Harley race. And then he'd always look, and I'd be like, "Oh crap!" So I turned back around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he said something to my mom, and I'm like, "Oh my god, he's mad. I know he's mad. He's mad." And he goes, "Hey kid, you want to sit by? You want to come over here?" And I go, "Sure." So I went over and sat by him.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if I won't curse, but he goes, "You come here to see the wrestling, or you come here to see me?" And to his surprise, I was like, "I came here to see you." 8 times. At the time, I said 7-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion. He goes, "It's really 8, kid," because that. So, and I figured it out growing up because the title switch they had in Singapore with him and Flair, that was a kind of a phantom switch.
Yeah.
So that was the 8 time, but he still takes credit for it.
Yeah.
But 8 times, and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know that." You know what I mean? Because by with what the magazine said and stuff.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah. I got a quick story about Harley. The first time I met him, it was in Springfield, Missouri. This was probably 10 years ago. I had the action figure. It was the King one. And we were going to the event, my wife and I. And I happened to just walk by his truck, and he was in there. And I just kind of pointed and said, "Hey, that's Harley Race. I can't wait to get this signed by him when we get inside there." And he gets inside. Well, he's out there, and I didn't want to bug him, So, but he waved us over. He goes, "Hey, come here." I go, "Yes, sir." He goes, "What do you got in there?" And I said, "Oh, it's a figure. You're outside here. I don't want to bother you right now. I'll wait till you get inside." And he says, No. He says, "Give me that thing here. You got a marker?" "Yes, sir." I gave him the marker, signed it 8 times. world champion, Harley race. And I was just like a little kid,
Yeah.
like a little 10-year-old, like, oh my God, it's Harley. And I'm 42 years old time. I'm like, oh my God, it's Harley race. And
He's so good.
yeah,
Awesome.
and fantastic. And it was a good card. It wasn't a garbage card. I mean, it was all his guys, so it was pretty good, and they had Bob Orton Jr. there that night as well.
Oh, yeah. This wasn't Harley's promotion. He was there.
That's when they were still in Eldon, and then they just came to Springfield, and I was at Fort Leonard Wood then. I was stationed there, and then they moved to Troy. I've only been up there once since then, but anyways, I mean, great guy. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago, and
I was actually to that Fanboy Expo that he was supposed to be at, that when he died on the way there.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Well, I got like a bunch of stuff signed by him, like a bunch.
Yeah.
And he's cool about it. And then we were talking and stuff, and I told him the story about when I was a kid. And of course, he said he remembered, but I really highly doubt he remembered. But I thought I had a poster, and I was like, son of a, I forgot the poster. Because it was like a lot of people. Arn Anderson was there, Bob Orton Jr., Jimmy Hart. And then I was going to go back in, and I seen Harley was smoking a cigarette in his wheelchair.
Yeah.
And I go, I really hate to ask this, but I will pay you double right now, because I just had to get this poster signed. He's like, I'll sign it right now, kid. And then he signs on the edge of his wheelchair. So it's not like the best signature, but it's like, I am never getting rid of that.
Yeah. No.
But I mean, I definitely paid him the money for the other show.
Yeah. Great guy though. I mean,
yes, he was.
Okay, you have a Facebook page, Twitter, with your logo on your hat there. If those of you who are watching can see it, Wrestling with Classics. Tell us a little bit about that. What's that about?
A lot of people had Facebook pages and Twitters and stuff, and I noticed some people on Twitter was posting their memorabilia and whatnot like that, and I'm just like, I have that, I have this, so I started posting it on my own Twitter, and I wasn't getting anywhere. So then I started making customizing wrestling figures at a super young age, and just gradually gotten better at it. And this has honestly been, good Lord, like 2012. I just put I was going to do like a YouTube page and everything. And my buddy's like, well, you need a name. And he's like, I go, well, I'm all about the classics. So I'm just like, Wrestling with Classics. And he's like, that sounds great. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't think anything would happen out of it or anything, but it's kind of, I'm super proud of, because I'm mostly on Twitter. I got about 3,400 followers on there. Yeah. And I'm just like, very cool. Yeah. But then when I mention the stuff and people are like, oh, Wrestling with Classics, I follow you on here and there, and I'm just like, oh, okay, wow, that's cool. I mean, it kind of took over a life of its own. Now I'm started a YouTube page, and then I'd like to do a podcast eventually on the St. Louis territory.
Yes,
I feel like my favorite territory is not talked about enough. I mean, I'm friends with Herb Simmons, good friend of mine.
Yeah.
Larry Matisick was a friend of mine. Those people I can say that, when they see me, they'd be like, hey, Matty, how you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Talking to Briscoe about it in Iowa, because he's at the Thez Tragos Hall of Fame every year. Mm-hmm. There's a bar down there, and if you're lucky enough to get out of the bar with Jerry Briscoe at midnight, you're a lucky man, because I was there in his room till 3, and it was just a bad night. Bad morning, I should say. But He's like telling me he would do it. He's like, it's not talked about enough, and I'm just like, I feel the same. I just love it.
Yeah, I did a podcast with Herb.
Yeah,
about a month ago. Nice guy. Yep. And then I saw him 3 weeks ago down in Springfield at a Mid-States wrestling event with Space Cowboy Jason Jones, and walked up to him. He said, oh, hey, how's it going? I'm like, hey, good, Herb. And I have my grandson with me, and my grandson's like, he's kind of looking around. He's 11, but
Yeah.
He doesn't know a lot about it. I'm trying to tell him stuff. And yeah, Her was is a heck of a nice guy. Very down to earth. Yeah.
Because I suggest it strongly. His shows are good. To me, like old school nostalgia. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's got a guy named Attila Khan that like
he was there.
He's so great, and
Yeah.
like they love him, and he's the bad guy. Like where he goes, my nephew's like, because he bleeds, and my nephew, my boys, he's just like, oh, I love it. You know, he's like, I'm gonna get with him. He goes, yeah, you guys can get a picture with me, and then grabs my daughter and puts her on his shoulder, and he's just like freaking out.
Yeah.
Now that's all he talks about, but his theme music and everything, they go around singing it all the time. Like,
yeah. He was down there in Springfield. It was a good show, actually, the Mid-States one. I guess they're like promoting together right now. They send guys up there and back down to Springfield.
Been doing it he's going on to 50 years, and he sends people to Iowa, I want to say Arkansas, and there's somewhere else I'm forgetting besides Missouri. But I mean, I've went back and forth with possibly doing something, and I would just, convention wise, and I would just have them come in because I know I'd get good, cool, quality stuff. So
he a heck of a guy. Well, let's talk about the St. Louis territory. I did a podcast. I don't know if you know George Shire or not.
I've listened to all your podcasts with George Shire.
George Shire, he is like
great,
a historian, right?
Yeah.
And St. Louis was one of his favorite territories besides the AWA. So tell me a little bit what you really enjoyed about the St. Louis territory under Sam Mushnick.
Yeah, Mushnick that's a big part of it. Larry Mushnick, it's crazy. Okay, so I live in Lincoln, Illinois, which is 30 miles away from Springfield, Illinois.
Okay.
So I was going to Lowe's one day, and I went by this flea market that was out in the open, and this guy had wrestling stuff, and I said, "Hey, how much would?" And it was St. Louis newsletters, WWA programs, and like not programs, but they're like just something you'd put on the outside of a building.
Okay. Flyers, yeah.
Bunch of magazines and stuff, and he goes, "I want $50 for both boxes." And I was just like, man, they had some old Mad magazines in there. There's a mixture of stuff. It was mostly wrestling, and I was with my uncle, and I go, "I can't give you $50 for both of those." I said, "It's just not worth it." I knew it was, but I just
yeah.
So I walked past, and I'm just like, we'll walk past it again. I'm gonna see if he'll go down a little bit. So he said, we're walking past, and we walk past. "Hey, you still interested in these boxes?" I said, "Yeah, but not for $50, He's like, "How much you got on you?" I was like, "I'll give you 35 for both of them right now." He's like, "Well, I'm getting ready to get out of here anyway, so I'll do it." So I'm like going through, and there's some crazy stuff, and I'm just like, "Where did you get this from?" And he said that him and his brother used to go to the matches all the time. He got all the stuff out of his mom's house because she's going to a nursing home, and he don't want the state to get it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that made me look into St. Louis a lot. And then I was always a big Brody fan just because I was like enamored by his like persona and everything. You know what I mean? Just furry boots and he's just larger than life to me. So that on Harley Race, of course. Harley Race, he backed St. Louis like you have no idea. And then you get in deeper in it. And what was that? KNC message board?
Yeah. I've heard of it. Yeah.
The St. Louis part of it, I would just every day, every night, every day at work, I would be on that, like just reading stuff, because it was just crazy to me that you could get like David Von Erich beat Harley Race while he was NWA world champion there, right? So it's like, oh my God, just like what could have happened type thing, And back to that box though, when I opened, so I left the box in my basement, and I didn't forget about it, but I just didn't go through it. It was almost probably 2 or 3 years before I went through it.
Yeah.
I crap you not. I opened up, just going through stuff, and papers or little pieces of papers are falling out. Looking down, so that says Bruiser. I'm like, wow. Wait a minute. So keep going through it. There's another one, Bobo Brazil, in these magazines. I'm like, what? So I keep going through it. Then there's Bruiser Brody, and like I freaking took the magazine I had in my hand, threw it up in the air. I said, I am done collecting. This is great. Well, of course I wasn't, but
Right.
I could leave. So then I did the research on that, and Brody and them, St. Louis, well, pretty much they ran in Lanphier High School in Springfield.
Mm-hmm.
Those came from there, but I kept going through them and everything. There was 2 or 3 of some of them, and I did sell the other ones. And I got a hold of Barbara. That's the first time I ever had contact with Barbara Goodish with those. I said, I hate to ask you this. I know you're probably bothered a lot type thing. You don't even have to respond if you don't want to, but is there any chance this is a real autograph? And she responded immediately. She's like, yes, that is. That is 100% his signature. And I was just like, wow. Like $35.
She is such a nice lady. I did that podcast with her. Such a down-to-earth woman.
Yep.
and amazing woman for what she went through when her husband was killed.
That's insane.
And I can't say enough good things about her. I mean, she sent me the book I was telling you about, the Brody book. She sent that to me signed by her. And I thought that was just amazing. She didn't have to do that.
No, not at all.
And she said at the end of the podcast, she says, I want to send you this book and I'll sign it for you. I go, oh, you don't have to do that. She goes, no, I want to. And she did. And it was great. And I appreciated it. So yeah, not enough good things to say about her. So
I was going to say back to that.
I'm sorry.
St. Louis. I was on High Spots a lot when I was a junior high. So I was taped VHS back then, but they had 12 volumes of classic St. Louis wrestling. And I got those, and then from then on, I was just definitely hooked. So, I mean, it was super young age and everything, but I got books on St. Louis. I got Scott Teal's books on St. Louis, Larry Matisick's books on St. Louis.
Yeah. Scott Teal, I hear that name a lot. So,
he's a great guy. He was in Iowa.
I never met him, but I've heard a lot of good things about him.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Unbelievable. I actually have a autograph.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's been your most memorable event that you've attended that you can? I know there's a lot.
Yeah.
But at least one of the most memorable ones for you.
I would say match-wise, it's kind of weird because it's not anything classic. Well, I mean, not old school, but match-wise, NWA 70, Cody and Aldis, and I thought they did a beyond terrific job. I thought that could have been anywhere in the world. And then the crowd. Did you go to the show too? I
was at the signing show. I was at the main show. I was at the whole thing.
And they had that top part roped off. They weren't going to use it, and they had to let everybody in. And the fire marshal came and everything. But that crowd. I've been to WrestleManias. I've been to pay-per-views, WWF pay-per-views. I've been to a lot. And that match with that crowd is my favorite to this day. I just thought the match I thought the match was great. I got a bunch of old stuff too. I'm not too keen on current stuff, but Aldis, I like Nick Aldis a lot. I like Cody a lot. Those about, I mean, those four. I mean, there's a few here and there.
Yeah.
There's a couple AW, I can't think of their names, but nephew, he lives here with us and he's all about it. John Moxley. I like him when he wrestles. I just don't really like all the barbed wire, glass, and all that stuff.
Yeah,
like
I'm with you.
It doesn't make any sense. No psychology to it. So it's like
I think my favorite wrestler out of AEW is probably Jericho, just because he's old school. He adapts, but I don't know. I just like him. I always have. But
definitely got to be up with best ever, because look what he's done.
Oh yeah. I have a picture of Nick Aldis that he signed at WrestleCon up on my shelf up there.
I got an Aldis shelf. It turned into I just up there, and now it's turning into all the shelves.
Yeah, he is to me one of the ones left that so do old school and can pull it off, on the NWA and everything.
Yeah.
He's just got that persona
pro,
about him.
right?
Yeah.
Like I remember him coming out there. I went to the Crockett Cup recently,
Mhm.
last year. Well, when was that? I don't remember. It
Yeah.
was this, but Aldous was at the podium and he was just going back and forth, like, and then he started talking. And it was just like on, and I was like, man, he's so good on the mic. I really like Aldous. I met him in Indiana. Him and DiBiase and FTR was the reasons why I went to that Squared Circle Expo.
Yeah.
And couldn't make it. They had something else going on, but I went in there. I got a Nick Aldis shirt. I had that on and this hat. Walked right through there, and Matt Cardona was there, and he had stopped. Like, what is on your shirt? I go, the real world's heavyweight champion, and just kept. I'm like, oh my gosh! But I mean, he was laughing, I was laughing, so it's not like it was a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Nick Aldis, they were all there too. Matt Cardona was at WrestleCon. I mean, the who's who were there pretty much, and we enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I'll be honest, my wife is not a fan. She just kind of goes with me to go.
Yeah.
Yours too?
With me. She's like the kids with me.
Yeah. So, okay. So what are you up to now? What are some things that are coming up with you that you're going to be doing as wrestling wise?
The Thez Tragos Hall of Fame in Waterloo, Iowa. It's so much fun. It's always so much fun.
Yeah.
Thez's wife, she wasn't there last year, but she was there. Okay, last year it was on, and the year before that, the COVID hit. Yeah. So that Lou Thez's wife was there. Barbara Goodish goes there.
Yeah.
There's women from the Joyce is there. There's another lady. She hears us. She's gonna be so mad at me for leaving her out. I can't think of her name right now. She's on my Facebook, but she's great.
Yeah.
It was Jerry Briscoe goes every year. Like you stay in this hotel and everything's in walking distance. The actual Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
It's got really neat stuff in it.
Yeah.
And I've shown them some of my stuff, and they're like, "Why don't you bring that here?" I was like, but I don't. But
yeah, I was gonna go this year, but we got our grandkids right now. We're getting ready to take them back, and I've never been to one, and I plan on going hopefully next year.
You stay at that Ramada, and everybody stays there, and then like you just go down to the bar down there, and everybody's like Jerry Briscoe's there, Byron Blair will be sitting there, and we'll just we'll be talking about wrestling and stuff.
Yeah.
Tony I think he was drinking one year because he got mad at me, and because I said that he was tag team champions with Larry Zbyszko, and he's like, I was never tag team champions with Zbyszko. It was Martel. I was like, well, it was both actually. I go, and then I was like, I got the program right here, and I was like, and he got mad, like walked off. I felt like such an idiot. I was like, what did I wasn't trying to be rude, man.
A lot of those guys forget stuff because they just do. They forget and
just fine the next day.
Yeah.
But it was crazy. My buddy Nick Sankey helps me out with Wrestling Classics, and me and him, that's where we met up at.
Okay.
And the first year we went, it was just people just kept handing us beer, and we just kept drinking it, and it's like Briscoe's bar closed at the hotel. I'm like, thank God. And Briscoe slapped me on the back. He's like, nope, you're coming with us. I'm like, oh my God, I can't breathe, And then my buddy's like, I gotta go to the bathroom. And I was like, and he ended up going back to his room. I was like, I knew you were going back to the room.
That's great.
It was.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I am looking forward to the Cauliflower Alley reunion, hooking up with you, and the wives will probably be doing their own thing, which is a-okay, and I'll have somebody to hang out with and do our stuff. So
we haven't got anything set in stone yet, but we're trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
we're just gonna, yeah,
Yeah.
it should. I really want to go. I've never been. I feel like that's like, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say what's the word I'm looking for earlier, like make connections with people,
Right.
but
No, yeah, definitely. No, I agree.
I love talking wrestling with people. I'd like to go to the
Oh,
one that Barry Rose puts on,
yes.
but it's like
Yes.
I think too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
And I
Great
know it's
guy.
kind of tough for, yeah, working and stuff. It's tough. So yeah. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Matty Montcalm, thank you for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it. Pleasure. I mean, I haven't talked to you in quite a while, so it's
Yeah.
nice to see your face. And hopefully we can, if you go to Vegas, we'll meet up if you're in Vegas for sure and do stuff. So yeah.
We'll try to make it happen.
Yeah, you bet. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, one more time, Mr. Matty Montcalm. Thanks, Matty, for coming on. I appreciate it, sir.
Thank you.
And folks, if you're watching, thank you. If you're listening, thank you. And please, if you haven't subscribed, please do and tell your friends about it. We'll talk to you soon.